Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I am Sayyid Akif Shah, lecturer finance at Institute of Business Studies, Kohat University of Science and Technology. The title of this course is Business Research Methods, and the course code of this subject is MS 312. This is lecture number 12, and the topic for today's discussion is the research process. Basically, this topic shall be covered in the upcoming series of lectures because it is a complete process consists of 2 or 3 chapters. The outline of this lecture comprises of the first 2 steps of the research process, which are number first, the broad problem area, and the second is preliminary data gathering over that broad problem area. So in this lecture, we will discuss these 2 initial points or steps of a research process. Dear student, this is a complete research process diagram which is depicting the deductive and as well as inductive research approach towards a scientific research process. It has a series of steps, and the arrowheads are showing the connection between or the linkages between each step. This research process starts with number first step, that is the observation. This observation is actually the sensing of the broad problem area, like broad area of research interest identified in the first phase. Like let's take an example of low productivity in a particular organizational setting or a manufacturing company. The managers or the top executives are interested to find out the reason why there is low productivity in manufacturing of this company. So now this low productivity is an abstract or a broad problem area which needs to be narrowed down and clearly defined in next few steps. The first step of any research process is to observe the major or broad problem area. After that, what the researcher does is to gather the preliminary data regarding that broad problem area. For example, in our case, we have taken the low productivity case. So what the manager or researcher can do is to have the interview of the staff and employees working in that manufacturing unit, and the researcher or manager would like to find out the possible factors or the variables that are influencing the employees towards low productivity. So with the help of structured and unstructured interviews, managers or the researcher can find out the pertinent or relevant variables which are causing or influencing low productivity in the organization. In other way around, the researcher or manager can also look into the literature, which is published and unpublished material available in the form of books, periodicals, journal articles, or any other newspaper, and as well as the published annual reports of the company. So this is basically a secondary data in which literature survey has been conducted or done by any researchers to find out what the already published material is saying about the low productivity in any manufacturing unit. Or another way around, I can say that the purpose of literature survey is to highlight already published work of different companies around the globe who has already encountered the same problem. In the third step, what the researcher does is to narrow down the broad problem area on the basis of initial information with the help of structured and unstructured interviews and as well as literature survey. He or she tried to narrow down the problem so that a clear, precise and concise statement, which is a problem statement or a research question, has been delineated or highlighted. So in the third step, the broad problem area on the basis of preliminary information gathering has been narrowed down and a specific research question has been constructed which will be answered at the end of this research. On the basis of these three steps, a critical literature review has been conducted and written down to find out what are the potential factors that could be the focus of our study. So if the method is induction, so we can directly jump towards the research design, because in my previous lecture I have explained that the induction process starts with the observation of specific phenomena and then it will generalize a theory, whereas a deduction process of research is to know about the known facts and theories and on the basis of those theories and researches, the current study will make a theoretical or conceptual framework, which means variables clearly identified and labeled. In this step, researchers theoretical framework has been conducted by the researcher, or we can also say a conceptual framework has been developed, which consists of the potential variables or factors that can influence our desired dependent variable. So basically a theoretical framework is the connection of the dependent and independent and as well as moderating and intervening variables, which I will discuss in detail in my next lecture. So on the basis of this theoretical framework, the researcher generates the testable statements or hypotheses, and then the next step starts is the research design. Like, what is the methodology of the research? What are the variables, measurements, technique? Either the variable are nominal, ordinal, or a ratio scale. These kind of data types might have been told by the statistical instructor of yours in your statistical subjects, but I will also highlight in my next lecture what are those nominal, ordinal and ratio scales, and as well as the Likert scale techniques of research work. So in this step, a design of the research has been made or selected by the researcher. The eighth step explains the data collection on those variables, dependent and independent variables, and then applying the data analysis techniques with the help of statistical packages like SPSS, Stata and eViews, and on the basis of that data analysis, like it could be a correlation analysis, regression analysis, or a descriptive statistic techniques to find out the mean, median, mode, and as well as the standard deviation and variance in the data of study. So after making the data analysis, the researcher deduce or conclude its finding that either the hypothesis made in step number 6 was substantiated, that has been proved correct or wrong, and the research question which was delineated in the earlier stages of this research has been answered or not. If the answer to this question is yes, the researcher go for report writing, and then it present the report, and final a managerial decision has been taken. Like in our case, low productivity factor might be because of the low morale of the employees, So the manager will take the decision to increase or enhance the morale of the employee by using different techniques. Secondly, if the research is based on induction, if the research question has been answered, the same next three steps, that is report writing, then report presentation, and final managerial decision has been taken. And if the answer to these two final steps, that is deduction and induction research question, is been answered or not, if the answer to these two questions is no, then definitely you need to start your research process again from the preliminary data gathering. That, like, you might have missed the important variable at the very start of your research, that is, you might have not interviewed properly the employees working in the organization, which might have highlighted the low productivity reasons. You might have missed the important variable in the literature survey. Similarly, there could be a problem at the problem definition phase or any other specific points where you might have hypothesized incorrectly or your research design needs to be improved. Similarly, the data collection process needs to be improved so that you reach to the desired answer of the prospective study of yours. So dear student, this is a complete research process diagram, and each rectangle and each step has a complete detail in the recommended book, and it is, I can say that almost one or two chapter comprises of this complete diagrams to be completed, or approximately we will discuss 3 chapters in detail pertaining to each main heading of this diagram in our upcoming lectures. Our today's agenda is to discuss the observation, broad problem area, and preliminary data gathering in detail. So what is a broad problem area? A broad problem area refers to the entire situation where one sees to possibly need for research and problem solving. Like low productivity is a broad problem area. Now, what could be the factors, and a proper research question on a low productivity will be refined in step number 3. What can be the stock market crash? Now, stock market crash is a broad problem area of a research work which needs to be narrowed down in our next few steps. So the broad problem area is the major area of our interest of research, which will be narrowed down by making interviews and preliminary data gathering. The specific issue that needs to be researched within this situation may not be identified at this stage. So the researcher, a manager, or the board of directors are interested to find out, let's say, low productivity reasons in the organization, or an academic researcher might be interested to find out the stock market crash because of in 2008 or in any other epidemic or pandemic situation where the market usually crash because of the political reasons, because of any world war or potential natural contingency situation, and as well as it can also crash because of the international market fluctuation due to the downfall because of war or any other natural calamities. So these are the broad problem areas which needs to be narrowed down in the next few phases. Some of the issues pertaining to the broad problem areas are the problems currently existing in organizational setting that needs to be solved. Like in our case, we have taken an example of low productivity. It could be the areas that managers believe need to be improved in the organization. For example, another broad problem area could be the absenteeism by the employees in any particular organization. So the manager is looking to sort out this issue in order to make the employees punctual and make the attendance 100% in the organization, so that the performance of the organization as a whole may be increased, like the wealth maximization objective to be achieved by the organization. So the manager might believes to improve the absenteeism in the organization, which could be another broad problem area. It could be a conceptual or theoretical issue that needs to be tightened up for the basic researcher to understand certain phenomena. Like any academic researcher is interested to find out why there is a stock market crash because of the any pandemic or economic crisis in the world. So such type of basic research helps the researcher to understand particular phenomena. Fourth, some research question that a basic researcher wants to answer empirically, like it could be a descriptive study or an empirical study to find out the impact of, let's suppose, dividend policy on the stock price of the any particular sector, corporate sector working in a country. Few more examples to cover the broad problem area could be like the training programs are perhaps not as effective as anticipated. It means that the training program needs to be improved. The sale volume of a product is not picking up. Like manager is interested to find out what are the reason behind any specific products and its low sale volume. And as well as another broad problem area could be the daily balancing of accounting ledger is becoming a continuing concern. There might be the problem in the company's accounting department that the ledgers are not getting matched with each other and the final balancing have certain issues continuously in the accounts department and record. So what are the potential problem for the accounting ledgers mismatching? As we have discussed some of the broad problem areas, in the next very step what the researcher does is to get the preliminary data on the broad problem areas. Like if the research is regarding any specific organization, so the preliminary data gathering step involves taking the information about that company. The first point says background information on the organization needs to be collected. Information on the structural factors and the management philosophy of that organization needs to be understood. And third, perceptions, attitude, and behavioral responses of the employees needs to be studied. Like in our case, we have started the discussion of low productivity reason. So the researcher might be interested to know about these three aspects of the company where this problem of low productivity exists. First step is to background information. It is important for a researcher or research team, especially if an outside agency conduct the research. Now there are two types of researchers. Let's say if the manager of the company himself is conducting the research, he will be inside researcher. And if the manager of the company appointed an independent body to conduct the research regarding the low productivity in the organization, then that will be the outside agency. So dear student, when an outside agency conducts research in any particular organization, that agency needs to know about the background information of the organization, and this is very important to reach at the final conclusion or the remedies of low production in the organization. So if especially an outside agency conducts the research, they should be well acquainted with the background of the company or organization. Now what is the background of the company? They must know about the origin and history of the company in past. What is the size in terms of the employees? If the employees are greater in number, the size of the company will be large. And if the employees are less in number, the size of the company might be low. What is the charter, purpose or ideology of the company should be known to the researcher. And location, regional, national or multinational, where the company is situated what are the culture and norms of that region should be known to the researcher. In order to solve a broad problem area, this information helps the researchers to know about the basic issue, symptoms, antecedents, and root cause of the problem. Point number B is information on structure and management philosophy. As the independent body is making a research work, so they must be acquainted with the information of the structural and management philosophy, like information on the company's policies, structures, workflows, management philosophy, and the like can be obtained by asking this direct question of the management. For example, whether the product quality is really deemed important by the company or if only the lip service is being paid to the concept. Like either the company is really focusing on the improved quality of the product or it just claiming to be a quality product production company. Structural factor could be the reward system prevailing in the company. What is the span of control in the company? Like how many employees has been controlled by one particular manager and what is his span, and as well as the management philosophy is concerned, the researcher might be interested to know about whether the company is people oriented or it is solely profit oriented firm. So such kind of information helps the researcher to reach at the conclusion or rectify the problem of low productivity or whatever the broad problem area is. The third is to know about the perception, attitude, and behavioral responses of the employees. So the employees' perception of work and the work environment and their attitudinal and behavioral responses can be tapped by talking to them, that is, interviewing them with structured and unstructured questions, observing them while they are working, seeking their responses through questionnaire, and the researcher can get the preliminary data gathered regarding the problem prevailing in the organization. Like the attitudinal factors could be the nature of work, either the participation in decision making has been offered to the employee or not, and what is the co-workers' relationship with each other. Behavioral factor might be the employee's habits, industriousness, or they are stiff towards the old mechanism, and as well as their behavior towards the absenteeism. Either they are punctual for their work or they are used to be absent from their work activities. Such kind of information may also help the researcher to find the answer or relevant variables affecting the low productivity in the organization, which is the broad problem area under discussion. So dear student, what is the purpose of information gathering over the broad problem area? The main idea in gathering information on values, structure, and processes is that these might often reveal the root of the real problems. Like low productivity is a broad problem area, but the root problems could be something else. Like why the people or workers are not interested to enhance the productivity. There could be the lack of financial benefits to the employees. There might be ignorance or negligence of the employees while they are working, like their behavior is not sophisticated enough and serious. There could be the problem of low participation in the decision making that could cause the low productivity of the employees. The purpose of information gathering is to know about the root cause of the broad problem areas, so that should be catered and solved later on. As well as the second objective or the purpose of information gathering is to find out the difference between real problem and symptoms should be cleared. These two topics will further be highlighted in the next few steps of this research process. This was all about the research process initial two steps. that is to know about the broad problem area and getting the preliminary information with the help of interviewing the employees and knowing about the structure and behavior of the employees. Thank you very much for listening to this lecture. If you have any question, you may ask. The next step will be covered in the next lecture. Good luck for the day. Allah Hafiz.